Hi friends, how are you today? Welcome to PHIDO International and Kawa Tourism Consultancy. Now why we're saying this is because we've been really doing a lot of traveling recently, and I'm studying travel and tourism as a course that I really want to move tourism forward. Now, what's my dream for tourism is to grow African tourism, because in Africa there's so much natural resources, there's so much nature at work, there's so much going on for Africa, but the world is not aware of it. And what we then find is when the world does come to Africa is only to come and take away things and not really appreciate what nature's given Africa and the people of Africa. So that's one of my big dreams going into travel and tourism, is to grow the African tourism. So that's why we have Kawa Travel Consultancy or Kawa Tourism Consultancy, to help people understand what tourism is. So the dream is to make African countries aware of what they have, and then of course bring the world to Africa to appreciate what Africa has. So that's what we're talking about, Kawa Tourism Consultancy. But PHIDO International is where I then tell you what's happening that I'm seeing across the world. So we will eventually break them apart. Travel consultancy will be focusing on traveling, while PHIDO will continue to empower and bring knowledge to you, to guide you into achieving a better, greater life for yourself. So welcome on board. Okay, so friends, this is what I would really definitely say. If you're my friend, you follow me on YouTube, follow me on Facebook and Instagram as well. We have a lot going on. And the reason I'm saying this is we tend to let you know what we're up to, where we are, what's going on. I do a lot on Facebook, guiding, sharing any information that I know will benefit people. I share it. So now YouTube, I love you guys to bits, but it's not every time I have that time to sit down and create a video to send across. So while you're waiting for a video to come, join me on Facebook, join me on Instagram. Things are happening in instants. Maybe that's why they call it Instagram. And on Facebook is just there to, bring people together. So I have so many pages on Facebook, but just start with PHIDO, Joy, then PHIDO, which follow me there. And once you're working with me, you're already seeing what I'm up to, you will then know about the other pages, because there's so much more that I want to really share. I know my mission in life is to just give out as much as I know. That's me. Everything I know, I want to give it out, because I believe nature or God did not give me these things to keep to myself. Things for me don't mean anything to me because I already know them, I've seen them, I've experienced it. So once I experience something, I give it out. That's the way God wants us to operate on this earth. You have something, you give it out. And that's how the world goes round. Because when you know something, you keep it to yourself, it is of no value to you. It doesn't benefit you any more than when you got it. So anyway, you know me, I will just keep going on. But we did travel to Marrakesh, Morocco. Now in tourism, Morocco is one of those really big names. So, and Morocco is in North Africa. So in that sphere of that industry, in this industry is called MENA, so Middle East and North Africa. So Morocco, Egypt, there are quite a few of them that make up Algeria. They all make up the North Africa angle of things, and they are now connected to Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Abu Dhabi. So all of these areas are all tied in that sense of MENA, Middle East and North Africa. So on getting to know that Morocco was really making a lot of impact in tourism, we became very curious and we wanted to see what Morocco has to offer, again to share with the world and to encourage people. Remember, the main focus is to grow African tourism, encourage people to travel there. So this is like a review of what we experienced, and we're calling this particular video Experience Morocco. So in the process of me talking you through everything we experienced, you're going to be seeing clips of videos of us actually being there and things that were happening on ground as we were there. So I'll take you through our experience. So first of all, what we found with Morocco arriving at the airport was, yes, they had an amazing airport, really beautiful airport. And I was really taken aback because it stood out for me, being that, you know, I'm well traveled. So I kind of really look out for certain things. Now in travel and tourism, this is one of the things that people look out for when they arrive in a country. You don't want to arrive and you start sweating at the airport and it's all scruffy and people are pushing people and it's so uncomfortable. You want to kind of like arrive in style, you know, so you can happily pull your overhead cabin luggage with you and you're feeling good and you're walking on that travelator. So all of these were there, and then you have all these signs telling you welcome to this place, and it's looking really welcoming, and you know, the trees, the plants, the sunshine. So all of these were already sticking out for me. So the airport was really welcoming, and then we had to go through the, you know, the immigration process. For us, you know, you have UK passport, so it was we didn't have to get visa, but I don't know what other countries have to go through the visa system. But right there at the airport, they stamp your passport. So this is one of the things we did some reviews before we went. They insist you must have your passport stamped before you walk through. For reasons, if you don't get it stamped, you get into trouble. And when I go further down, I explain why that was so absolutely necessary. So they stamp the passport, and then when you come out from the immigration officers, then somebody else looks at your passport and ensures that that stamp has been done. So you get into the country, and it was really beautiful. So we'd made plans, and we had all the taxi came, picked us up, and then I was really excited. I was taking videos as we were going along. So that was our arrival. So what stood out for me in Morocco? A lot of tradition and culture. This was really amazing for me, because Africa, we tend to now forget what our culture is. We're beginning to over-modernize ourselves. We're beginning to fall into the gap of Western country, and we are not remembering what our roots are. So this is again one of my big mission in life, to just gradually take us back to who we are. And for this particular reason, I absolutely fell in love with Morocco, because they did maintain their culture. They have maintained their culture. So culture really stood out for me. And further down, we will talk about the various places we visited. But culture was there everywhere we went. And from what I don't know if you can really see what I'm wearing, but of course we have some picture that we're going to throw in there. You see the whole outfit. Fashion was very cultural. They have their fashion that stood out. So that's one of the things I'll talk about as well. So tradition and culture was really very clear. You see it's not hidden. And then food again is part of culture. But in tourism again, there's something we call gastronomy tourism or food tourism. People actually do travel to go and experience foods from other countries or other parts of the world. So food was really amazing. There's something they call tagine, and tagine is they could have it with beef, chicken. I think there was fish as well, and it's cooked in a certain way. So again, hopefully a clip of the tagine, because I love taking pictures. So I was taking pictures of everything that I saw. So food stood out traditionally, culturally, and it was absolutely amazing. Fashion, which I've just talked about, one of the two major ones we saw was there's one called kaftan, and then there was the one called jalabi. It was rather interesting because it just met my type of needs. You know, I'm really into the African fashion. Really colorful, lots of embroidery, lots of stones. Beautiful, completely beautiful. It was so amazing. I had to buy a magazine of it. And this is like one of the top magazines, and if when I was looking at it, I was seeing so many amazing designs that I'm hoping you can see these designs in the video. So they really stood out for me. These are the kind of things I would love to be seen wearing, and so it really made my day. I felt so good. Now let's talk prices. If you were to dream of wearing this, what kind of prices are you looking at? So that would be the next thing you think about. This is where your tourist hat comes in. For as long as you're a tourist and you're in a new place, again, good thing, Marrakesh, Morocco is really into tourism. So what it is they have to make money out of tourism. So if you're coming there to try and start getting involved with their culture, with their food, with their nature, you're going to be charged for it. So yes, it's not a bad thing to go to a place and spend money to experience what the people have. So these things were not cheap at all. But what we found out was, because we actually did move around a lot, and in one of the shops we went to, I can clearly say to you that the prices there were just for tourists. And this shop was just quoting like in thousands. Okay, so as at the time we traveled, 12 dirham is equals to £1. And so these people were quoting like 7,000 dirham, 8,000 dirham. But these outfits were absolutely stunning. But so how prepared are you for this trip? So if fashion is what you're thinking about, and maybe you end up in a shop like that, you're gonna dish out quite a bit of money to buy one outfit. But outside of there was another really beautiful place you could go and get these clothes really a lot cheaper than that. And so what we then did was we bought their book. There's a book on Marrakesh, and this particular square, it's the place where you can go and shop. When we're talking about culture and tradition, this is the place you can go and shop, and you get most things are really reasonable prices, and it's called Jamal El Fna Square. So right next to Jamal El Fna Square. Now the interesting thing with Jamal El Fna Square is like Christmas happens every night. It comes alive in the night. So from about 4 o'clock, people start trooping there and trooping there and trooping there. And by 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the night, there's so much activity going on. And when we got there, I was so scared initially. Snake charmers, they have so much snake everywhere, and naturally I really don't like snakes. I'm really scared of snakes. Snakes are everywhere, poking their head. So I'm staying really far off, watching from a distance. And then the minute they see you with a camera or you're trying to video it, they will run to you with a cap, and then you have to put money in there. So we didn't know all of that at the first instance. So I was really scared, and I just really walked away. So we gradually started understanding that it needed for you to give them money for you to be able to video it or take pictures. So that's my advice. If you really want to experience it, please put some money in that cap. I'm laughing because at some point when I finally summed up courage to put some money in there, so I just had some coins on me and I just dropped whatever it was. I didn't know what the value was, and the man actually picked the money out and was looking at it with disgust. So you could tell that the money was really nothing. I didn't know. So I just did what I had to do because I was put on the spot. But please, if you really want to go experience this, just take, even if it's like 10 dirham. 10 dirham will be about, I don't know, $1, so that, yes, that's about $1. That's about 80p or so. So that will be fine to drop in there. They'll be happy with that. But I had just coins. They also have like 10 dirham in coin, so that's okay. So do that, and you actually experience and enjoy Jamal El Fna. But if you don't do that, you're really not going to like it, and you think they're really aggressive and unfriendly and all of that. They're not like that. The minute you put money there, they're going to be happy to let you video whatever and get involved what is going on. So that was our experience with Jamaa Fna, because I'm going to talk about the various places we went to. So fashion I've talked about, food I've talked about. You could get food while you're sitting out there in Jamaa Fna. They have so much food stores. So they had so much food stores that you could decide whatever you want to eat. Food was okay. I can tell you it was okay. Maybe you want to know, how did it go price wise? Yeah, so what we did was we're now trying our food in various places. So the first day we arrived, and from where we stayed, we got a taxi to go to find something to eat. And we'll talk about taxi and talk about prices. But we got to this place, and this taxi, he actually took us to this restaurant. We had to climb like a series of stairs to some top floor. And the prices were like 200, 300. We didn't know what value of things were, so we just bought. So we took it back to the hotel and ate it. And then by the time we slowly got into the system, we realized that was such a rip-off. Because while we were there at the Jamaa Fna eating, this is probably like our third day, prices are nothing more than 100. And there was one time we ate and it was 130 for both of us. But the first time we went to this restaurant, it was like nearly 500. So this is what comes with tourism. When you are new to a place, people are going to outsmart you. We experienced this in Turkey as well. I mean, we've been all over the place, but some places really stand out for you where you just know that they know that you're a tourist, and they're just jumping on that opportunity, and they just want to take that money off you because, you know what, I might not see you again, so this is my chance to get this money off you. So anyway, food generally isn't that, it is not expensive at all. I mean, eventually when we moved to another place, because I'll talk you through the various places we stayed, we moved to a hotel, and there was an eating place near the hotel, and we started eating there. I'm telling you, we were spending between both of us about 70 dirham for both of us, and the food was really, really good. Like, there was rice, and there was salads, and there was chicken, and it was actually like half chicken or quarter chicken. For all of that for that little money, we were shocked. But remember, the first day we'd spend nearly 500 for just 2 meals. So this is what you experience when you travel. Just allow it to flow. Don't get wound up. Don't get angry. Just know that is an experience, and that's what we're calling it, experiencing. So that's food. That's fashion. So tourism experience. Now remember, I said Morocco is really, really huge in tourism right now. Marrakesh is really up there. Maybe before I even get to tourism experience per se, I'll talk about a ticket. We traveled with British Airways, and it wasn't bad at all. The ticket was really reasonable, because even when we were coming back, there were some teenagers who were on the flight with us. They were so excited. They go, yes, that was really good experience, and to imagine the ticket was so cheap with British Airways. This was really good. So the ticket was really cheap, and what didn't happen was, you're not allowed to really check in any luggage. You only have to carry on the overhead cabin and basic small case, and that was it. So for that, you pay cheap ticket. It's not bad at all. It's about 3.5 hours flight, so it was really good value for the travel. So again, depending on the season that you're looking at traveling, just go online and Google it and say, maybe you could say cheapest ticket to Marrakesh or whatever. But the season will make a difference. So tourism experience, because we said the industry is really booming at the moment for Morocco, what we found was, you know a country is really encouraging tourism right from at the airport. This is what I tend to use as my yardstick for checking out. When there are more visitors in the immigration point, you just know more visitors. than the locals, then you know there are more people visiting this country than the local people coming back or whatever. So the same thing we experience in China as well. You find so many people on the queue trying to get into that country, and with a long queue, so you know that there's a lot of people coming in. So when we saw that, we knew that yes, this place is really popular and lots of people coming. But I'll tell you why we're looking at that. Comparing this to Nigeria, where I come from, you don't even want to know. When you arrive in Nigerian airport, the queue of locals trying to get back home, it's so long and it's endless compared to queue of visitors. Probably 10 or 5 or 15 will go on the queue, and that tells you that this country is not welcoming visitors. So the reverse was the case with Morocco. But anyway, so some more things you use to pick out a country that's really welcoming or open to tourism is we found that everywhere there were bureau de change. Okay, so another thing that Morocco actually does is you're not allowed to get their money from anywhere else. So dirham, you will not find it anywhere else except in Morocco. And then again, the law says you cannot go out with dirham. So if you know, exchange your money for dirham, your dollar, your pound sterling, your euro, and then you are in Morocco, you finish spending, and then you have some money left with you, you have to finish spending it at the airports, because you're not allowed to take it out. It is against their law to take their currency out of the country. So the good thing that happens is you will not struggle to find where to change your money to dirham. Everywhere there's a bureau de change. So that really explains to you that this country is encouraging tourism. And the other thing we found out, which again was really interesting and quite useful for them as a country, is the people are friendly. So it just makes you wonder, at what point did they know that it's important to be nice to visitors or to strangers so that we want to come back? Because right now I want to go back. I'm more than excited to visit again, because there were so many things I hadn't done, and I would like to go and really experience these things I haven't experienced. Now, if they hadn't treated me well, if I didn't enjoy the experience, I wouldn't want to go back. So this is where a country needs to start thinking and, you know, kind of like encourage the locals to allow this influx of visitors, or at least welcome visitors. I mean, in tourism, I know there's something they call leakage, and leakage is when visitors come, and it's not so much the visitors' fault, it's the owners of the businesses that are encouraging tourism into that country. If they're not the locals that create those businesses, what happens is when they finish the business, they take the money out of the country or profit out of the country, and the country doesn't really gain. But that's not where we are. And then, of course, we also have the one we call sustainable tourism, where if a visitor comes in and doesn't treat the country with respect, eventually the country slowly starts to lose the value that they bring on board. But these are things that the country needs to be aware of. But for Morocco, that wasn't what I experienced. Their tradition is still intact. They haven't watered it down. They haven't, we also call it commodification. They haven't commodified their tradition. Although we saw, it was so interesting, these men, I think they call them water carriers or something like that. And they dressed up, and it was weird. So they come to you and they say, could you give them money? And then they take a picture with you. This is them. Let me see what they call them. Yeah, water sellers. But I don't think he hurt them in any form, because nobody's just chasing them and say, can I take a picture with you? They actually ask you for money. So they haven't, I won't say overly commodified who they are, because I never really looked for who they are. I don't know what they are. I could buy water anywhere, so it didn't bother me. But if that's their means of earning some money, why not? So anyway, that's what it is. So they're friendly people, extremely friendly. The English is not their first language, so they speak French. That's the people that the French were the people who actually kind of like, you know, the usual thing, take over their country and force down their own rules and language in them. But they are really making an effort to speak English with you if English is what you speak. So that tells me something. That tells me they're open, they're welcoming. So they're very, very friendly, they're very helpful, they're very supportive. A good example where we stayed, and we wanted to go out a bit and see places, and the man was like, yeah, I'll tell you where to go. And so he actually brought his computer and he was pointing out places. So I said, could you write it down? He actually wrote it all down. And then we got a taxi, and the taxi man actually took us to all these places. So that just tells me that they want to help. They understand the meaning of you coming to visit their country, and they want to encourage you to go around, see things for yourself, and spend money. So the next thing is, remember I was talking about culture and tradition, is the history. Again, history. History is a big thing for me. History really is a big thing for me. For any of us out there, we need to know our history. Why? Because there's a book I'm reading right now. I will actually show it to you. It's called The Miseducation of the Negro. Without history, people don't exist. And I got this message from this man called Dr. Africa. You can check it out on YouTube, Dr. Africa. And he really breaks it down for us to understand that, especially for us black people, if we don't hold on to our culture and our tradition and our roots, we're going to be practically, I don't know, like alienated, or what's the word, eliminated, because now you would just have a color. You would just be, you know how they like to say, people of color. You just be a person of color, and there's no history to you. So luckily for me, I have a lot of rich history from my country, Nigeria, from African roots, so that's one thing Morocco represented to me, and that's why I will visit Morocco again, because there were lots of museums, lots of places that everywhere you go, somebody's telling you something. This happened in 1700 this and 1700 that and 16 something. We went to, let me even see some of the places we went to. Let me see. So apart from the Jama F now, which is like the mosque, there's a huge mosque in front of it. And then again, if you're into the Muslim religion, that's a place to go and see, and maybe go and do some prayers there. There's a place called, we went to a place called the tomb, and that tomb is probably where they buried lots of people, lots of the kings. Yeah, that's a place they buried lots of the kings. We also went to, there were some museums. There's a place called Bahia. It's so full of history. But what happened? Al-Badi Palace. That was a really good place we saw, and this is like from 17 something. This whole history, yeah, not even 17. It was 1578 to 1603. That was the king that was there at that time, and that place is still here today. So it's really amazing the amount of history they have preserved to show the generations and generations on board. Al-Badi Palace was really something. But what happened, we just walked around it, we took pictures, but we didn't go in, because you need to be prepared for this. You're going to all these places, they're not free. You have to pay some money to get in. And so because we didn't know, we didn't really do that type of research to see how much it was going to cost us and if we're going to go to places like that. So at the time we went, they were like 70 dirham. It was two of us, so that's 70, 140. And how many museums were we going to? So we did not budget for that, and that's why we didn't go. So that's why I definitely would like to go again, and maybe this time with my children, because I want them to learn about the African history. And this is something I want anybody out there watching this to start dreaming about. Start educating your children with a lot of our rich history, so they know who they are. Because what is happening in the world right now, lots of people would like to force on you the fact that you are a nobody. What do you know? Who are you? And where do you come from? You live on a tree and all of that nonsense. But when you see history that dates back as far as 17 something, 15 something, it makes you proud. Then it makes you know that your great ancestors belonged somewhere, and they came from somewhere, and they had something to do, and they contributed to society, contributed to the world. So This is why Morocco or Marrakesh really stood out for me. There was a place called the Sadian Tombs. We went in there as well, but we didn't go in, like I said. We also went to this place called where YSL, if you know YSL, Yves Saint Laurent, it's called the Majoret Gardens. And the Majoret Gardens was really amazing. Some history about YSL buying this place off the man who actually created the garden. And you know YSL, the designer. There was a Museum of Moroccan Arts, which we also did not go in. There was another museum, not this one, something to do with Bahia. We also did not go in because, like I said, we didn't budget for it. But it just goes to show you that if seeing history is something that you are thinking about, Marrakesh is a good place to go, especially if you have Black African roots or Black roots and you want to, get in touch with your roots and try and revive who you are. This is a place to definitely go to. So history did it for me. Now, about tours, that was another amazing. This one was really amazing. So one of the biggest things about Morocco is called the Atlas Mountain. So if you can look up there, so I'm sure we'll have clips of this in the video. So Atlas Mountain is huge about Marrakesh and Morocco, and we had to take a tour to go and see it. It was absolutely amazing. So what we did was this tour we took us to so many places. So one of them we had to get to a point where we had to climb the camel, and I climbed the camel. It was amazing. You know me, I just like to try anything new. Just bring it on, let me try, at least let me experience it. So I got on the camel. It was really scary, and the camel, it took me around. You have to hold on to that hump really tightly. It took me around, and the man kept going, and I said, okay, that's enough now, I don't want to go any further. But anyway, we came back, and I took lots of pictures with me on the camel. And after that, we had to go to, guess what? What do you know? What comes to mind first when you hear Morocco? Well, I know all I ever thought about was Moroccan oil or argan oil. So we had to go into a village setting where their main industry is producing argan oil. Wasn't that amazing? That was absolutely amazing. And if you see the troop of people coming to see this place, if you see the mound of argan nuts that was sitting on there that they had piled up over the years or over the period, if you see all the traditional women sitting down there and producing the argan oil, then they have argan oil for food, they have argan oil for cosmetic use, they have argan oil infused with anything you can think about. That was just something else for me, because again, I'm into oils and natural oils, and this, I just want to know what helps the body to stay healthy and natural. So that really blew me away as well. So we got to that village and took lots of pictures and walked around, and they told us the history of how the argan oil is made. And then we left there, and then we went to the mountain. So first we had a meal, and then from there we climbed to the mountain. And again, I joined, and I got to the end of the mountain. I got to the end of the climb, which was a huge waterfall. Now we were a team of 8, and of course the rest of the people couldn't even try it, but I did it. I kept climbing and climbing, and yes, I got tired at some point, huffing and puffing and breathing, and like when you're climbing a mountain, you start to lose oxygen, and there's more carbon dioxide. Yeah. So I'm getting there, but luckily I'd been doing a bit of exercises in the gym before I traveled, but I didn't know that was going to come in handy, because I'd been doing some runs in the gym. And yes, that was me on the mountain. I was so happy I got to the top of it, or at least up to where the waterfall was, and that's where everybody stopped as well. So it wasn't like people were still going, but you don't just get to the top of the mountain just like that. You have to practice and prepare. But anyway, we didn't prepare, and we got there, and I felt so good about myself. But of course, when we came back, I suffered because my leg was aching, my back was, everything was aching. But it was such an amazing experience. So if you visit in Marrakesh, make sure you take that trip. I mean, the interesting thing is when I came back and all my friends are asking, how was it? I'm telling them, everyone's so excited they want to go to Marrakesh right now. It's been really, really popular recently. So that was tours. Then after that, we also saw the locals. So they took us to this village where, I was talking about history and tradition and culture. And this family is still exactly the same way before modernization came into place. But what was really amazing was electricity was there. They had electricity. So the bed, the local way of doing things, they were raising, what they call organic chicken. They were raising their chickens and their turkey, and everything was right there in your face, and it was awesome. So there was electricity there, which was something else, because again, throughout we stayed in Marrakesh, there was never any day you heard there was no light or electricity. And that's one of the biggest problems we struggle with in Nigeria. Nigeria, every 2 minutes, there's no electricity, even in the most poshest parts of Lagos or Abuja. Electricity is a problem. So Marrakesh didn't have that, including the little village. And even when we went to the top of the mountain, there was still electricity at the top of the mountain. So this just tells you when a country wants to grow, they grow. It does not matter. This is one of the things I'm trying to let people understand. A country is made by the people. The people of a country makes that country. It's not the country itself. So the people of Nigeria need to wake up to make Nigeria great, or anywhere else in Africa. Hence this encouraging tourism growth in Africa. You need to allow yourselves to think. This is where we start delving into understanding human resource. What's your intellectual capability that you bring on board, that you can actually empower your people or encourage your people to think and do something for their own benefit. Look at Marrakesh. Electricity on the top of the mountain, electricity in the village setting. Once these things are in place, the rest follows. Social amenities and infrastructures. So that's what it is, and it was really, really exciting. But of course, let's come out of the culture now. So Marrakesh has its modern side. So there are two sides to Marrakesh. They call it the Medina, and the Medina is the local side, where people still know their own ways of doing things. I'm telling you, when we got there, because we tried both sides. So the modern side, we started with the local side, and I'm so glad we did that, because if we'd come from modern side and gone to the local side, I probably would have been so unhappy about it. I don't know why, but it would have just made me feel unhappy. But anyway, we started with the local side, and my initial reaction was, oh my gosh, what happened here? Am I in Lagos or some local villages? But the houses are, the roads to get to it are this small. We'd experienced something like that too in Spain, a place called Toledo. And that's a story for another day, because we had hired a car. This was with the family, and we were actually arguing with them when we were trying to get that car. We want a really big, huge truck, and they go, no, you cannot, because what happened, the card we used in booking it, we didn't carry the card with us. So you cannot have it without the card. Okay, give us any other car. So they gave us a smaller car. That was God working, because this was us going to Toledo, not knowing that the roads are this narrow. And when we drove in there, the car was like that. We had to push the mirrors in too. So imagine if we had a big truck. But anyway, so that was exactly the same experience we had in the Medina. So at one point, our car was coming in, and this car was coming out, and we both had to stop. And the drivers were now struggling to. But of course, they are used to it, so they could handle it. And that was what happened with the Medina. So we got in, and it's really, really traditional setting. We had our room, toilet and baths, and not bath, shower. and everything was so traditionally done. I took lots of pictures, but I don't know if you get them. But if you do go and you really want to experience the traditional side of the Medina, try the type of housing or accommodation. They are called riad. So the riads are this local setting. There's another type called the dar, which is like a huge apartment and with so many rooms. So they have their riad, they have their dar, and we stayed in a riad. There were lots of people from different countries as well who had their little rooms, and it was part. Breakfast was part of it, and so we also experienced the breakfast. And one thing I noticed in all their food was mint tea. Oh, that's true. I haven't had mint tea now for some time. So, anyway, mint tea was in every meal you ate and in fasting, and okay, coming from Nigeria, when you visit somebody, do you want a drink? And then they offer you whatever you say, maybe water, tea, no, not tea, soft drink or beer or whatever. But in Morocco, it's mint tea, or rather in Marrakesh. So I found that exciting because, again, I love natural teas. So mint tea was offered in all the meals, which was amazing. So that's our experience with the Medina. And so after the Medina, we then went to the modern side. Oh, in the Medina is where they have what they call the souks. And the souks are where you can do all your shopping. So the souks is where you get the kaftans and the jalabis and all of that, and very local things. They had lots of interesting things, which I didn't really buy much. I didn't really do much shopping because the plan wasn't really to go and shop. It was just to go and experience a new place. So think souk when you're thinking shopping. You can ask people, I want to go to a souk, and you tell them the type of souk. We also experienced souk in Turkey as well. We went to the gold souk, and then we also went to a place where they had all the different designer, fake designer things, but that's the souk for you. So you can go to souks, which are markets. Souks are another name for markets, and depending on what you try. Another thing we saw in Morocco as well, or Marrakesh, was a lot of herbs and spices. So if you're into cooking, which is one of my biggest things as well, I love the smell of food. I like food to be really rich. So there were loads of spices which we saw, and they have them like mountains of it. So like in the front of the magazine, this book, we see all of this. That's the herbs and the spices. So we actually did take a video in one of the shops we went to, where the man was quite happy to show us the different types of spices that they had. So for cooking and all of that. So if you're into spicy food, yeah, Morocco is a good place for you. But anyway, that was types of accommodation. So the modern side, and now that's where the West the West meets Africa, if you ask me, because I actually do love Marrakesh because it's quite modern in that sense. Like, all the roads are really beautifully tarred and nicely laid out, apart from when you're in the Medina. So roads are nicely tarred and everything, and then all the big shops were there. That's what I meant by West meets Africa. So they had Zara, McDonald's, Burger King, KFC, you name it, they were all there, all the big shops. And if you are the type of person who's not curious enough when you visit places and you just want to stay with what you know, then the modern side is where you should just stay. This is interesting because I was having a chat with one of my friends, and she said her friend is traveling down to Marrakesh, and her friend was thinking of going with the kids. And she was like, oh no, are you sure you want to go with the kids? Because they might not like what they see. And I'm like, no, you have both sides. So she's like, okay, then I will tell her to just take the kids to the modern side. Yes, because again, not because our children shouldn't know about our culture, but I think it comes down to individual parents. Because for me, when I do take my children there, they are going to see all the traditional side. They're going to see the historical side. I take them to all the museums. I want them to know what the roots of Africa is. Because we need to encourage our children to know who they are. Like I keep saying on this channel, none of us are going to be here forever. And if we don't start teaching our children today the things they need to know, by the time we are gone, the world will make them feel they belong nowhere, and that's not going to be a good thing. So I always take my experiences, or rather, I look into a lot of books for guidance. So Bible is one of those places. If you want to be guided properly, look at the Bible. Bible to me is a living history. So look at the scenario where the Israelites, remember their story, how they moved to Egypt. So it started from famine, and then Joseph was there. And then they had to go and look for food. And in the end, Joseph said, look at my brothers. And he took them in. Go and bring your dad and mom. And then they okay. So they all went, and gradually, generations of Israelites were born in Egypt. And then what happened? Now they lost who they are. They didn't know their history anymore. They didn't know where they came from anymore. And then what happened? God had to intervene and send Moses to go and take them back. Until today, that story is still with us. Palestinians and Israelites are still fighting over some land, and this is the promised land, this is not the promised land. So why? This comes from us not giving our children history. And I'm telling my children, because now they were born here in the UK, if I don't tell them about where they come from, God forbid anything happens to me, I'm no longer here, what will happen? They won't even know anything about where they come from. And then their children, and then their children's children. And before you know it, Israelite story starts. So, parents, you need to educate your children with their history. There is nothing to be ashamed of your own history. It is who you are. A people without a culture do not exist. And when our children are generations to come, then grow up and they find themselves in some strange land, and people start saying, where do you come from? This is not your original land. Even in football, black people have been kicked around like they don't belong. And yet they're the ones scoring the goals and making these countries proud. So we need to instill culture into our children. And for me, that's what Marrakesh gave me. Because yes, I would love to take my children to Nigeria and show them around, but Nigeria is so unsafe, extremely unsafe. We traveled everywhere in Marrakesh, which is the next point. Safety. You cannot see anybody hop into a plane to say, I'm going to a country for tourism, I'm going to visit blah blah blah, and they hear that, oh, it's not safe. Because one of my friends was actually concerned, oh my gosh, I hear that place, it's not safe, people might steal from you, be careful with your purse. Seriously, I did not see anyone interested in my purse. No one was interested. I know in China, it's like everyone's got more than you have, because the type of phone I'm seeing with little kids were like massive sizes phones that are like most modern, yesterday made. So you did not count. What handbag are you carrying that they don't have? But in Marrakesh, it was different. Yes, there were people begging. Yes, I will not tell you that, oh, I didn't see anyone begging. People were begging, but these people were begging with dignity. In the sense of what they did was they actually, it was really weird. Every little child will come to you, maybe between 3 and 5 or 6 years old, and they'll come to you with a little bit of tissue. I don't have it here. I actually had it somewhere. I wanted to show you. You know the little tissue pack? And they go to you and 2 dirham. So I was really confused. I'm thinking, why do they want me to buy tissue? And so my husband was like, that's their way of begging, because they're not officially allowed to beg. So when they tell you 2 dirham or give you tissue, you'll be forced to give them more than 2 dirham, and then they've got some money. So that's interesting. So I started buying the tissue. Well, I actually did buy from somebody. But, so they're not really standing out there and chasing you and begging you. It was interesting when we actually went to the place where they make this argan oil. There were loads of young boys. They're mostly boys. You don't see the girls around. And they were just saying, madam, give me some money. But they were quite shyly saying it. They were not in your face, like standing by you and waiting for you to just bring your money. And you didn't have to give them anything. They didn't do anything to you. They didn't kind of like aggressively want to steal your bag or take something off you. So why can we not create things like that? Why can we not encourage our countries to grow such that we can, empower our people? Because, okay, if you ask me, as a tourist, let's say as a tourist consultant, and I were to advise Morocco, there's a lot they could do with what they have. They have a lot. Water is, the water from the mountain. I was really beating myself up for not getting that water when I got to the top of the mountain. I did have a bottle, but it never clicked to pour out the water out in the bottle and get the fresh one. So, yes, when we actually got to the hotel, we bought some water, and it was saying from Atlas Mountain. I felt so good about it, because that is something that they could export to anywhere in the world. That's nature. That water is not going anywhere. So you're going to have to just keep getting it and bottling it and selling it to anywhere in the world. So that is there. That's a huge industry which they haven't. I don't know. Maybe they have, but it's something that's worth considering. And then my next question was the argan oil. Argan oil is quite expensive. You might think, oh yeah, Morocco argan oil. And I thought, yes, I'll get so much. Or my friends were like, yeah, bring some argan oil. No, they were not cheap. Each tiny little bottle are like 150 riyad or 200 riyad. And it's like for that little thing. So now, if they wanted to really stand out, huge industry, they could industrialize the method of creating the oil. Because all those women just sitting down there and stirring the mortar and bringing out the oil, that's a lot of hard work. Okay, you could maintain the traditional way if you wanted and say this is handmade and then this is machine made. That's what China would have done, because China turns everything around in seconds. They find a machine that does it, that does what 50 people would have done in one machine. So that's why it's expensive. So something like that will create jobs, will make people more and more useful. So there's so much more that country could do. But yeah, these are the kind of things I am looking at, and these are the kind of things I will advise countries, mostly African countries, to start thinking and coming out of this poverty state that the world thinks of us when we actually do have a lot. So conclusion, Marrakesh is a very lovely place to experience, is a lovely place to visit. Give it a go, and when you do, I won't mind hearing your side of the story. But when you do go to a place, remember, every time you arrive at a place for the first time, there will be people who will try to play smart on your intelligence. That should not stop you from traveling. There will be people who outsmart you and get more money out of you for something that should be really cheap. All you have to do is be smart. I mean, one good thing, the guy at the Riyadh where we stayed said to us was, when you go out to the souk to buy things, if they say to you, if they say whatever they say to you, divide it by 3, and that's what you should tell them that you will pay for it. So if they say something was £100, tell them £30. I mean, if they say 100 riyad, say 30 riyad. But it was so funny because when we tried, playing smart like that, they go, this shop we don't haggle price. So you get the ones who tell you they don't haggle price, but you get the ones who are quite excited to haggle with you. So, and you don't have to buy, because sometimes when you're trying, you of course occasionally get the aggressive ones who try to practically force you to buy what they're selling to you. But you just say you don't have the money and walk away. And there was a particular shop where we're trying to buy something, and this guy kept trying to force the price on us. And if we quoted something, he would quote another closest to it, and then he would get to it. And then I thought, I don't want to buy this. And he started being all aggressive. But that doesn't mean that everybody in there is aggressive. It's like any country in the world. Even where you live, there are aggressive people. So don't put it on your head and say, oh, when I visited Morocco, people were aggressive. Not everybody. There's so many people who are extremely friendly. And then there'll be the 1 or 2 who are unfriendly. So we'd like to hear your experience if you do take a trip to Morocco, and share it with us as well. But if you need more detailed personal advice, you want to go to Morocco, you want to hear from us so we can guide you, please feel free to email us, WhatsApp us, because I think we have a WhatsApp number in our description box below. Chat with us about it. We'll definitely guide you and support you, and you have a really enjoyable journey. So if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up, and remember to share it with all your friends. Morocco, put it on your to-do list for tourism, and we'll see you in the next video. God bless you.